You have people in your life who believe they know you well. They can recount your preferences, predict your reactions, and share space with you comfortably, and yet there is an entire country inside you that they have never seen. They do not even know it exists. This is not secrecy. This is the architecture of the INFJ inner circle. And there is a reason so few people ever cross the threshold. Welcome to Power and Myth. What most people misunderstand about INFJS is that the selectivity is not snobbery. It is not elitism. It is not the behavior of someone who thinks themselves superior. The INFJ inner circle is not a social hierarchy. It is a sacred precinct, and you are its guardian. This is the guardian of thresholds archetype, one of the most misunderstood patterns in INFJ existence. The guardian stands between worlds, helping others cross whilst remaining on the edge themselves. But what people fail to grasp is this: the guardian does not simply stand at the threshold. The guardian decides who may pass through, and the decision is never casual. The truth is that you have built something precious in the hidden centre of yourself. A place where your actual thoughts live, where your strange perceptions are allowed to exist without translation, where you do not have to perform the version of yourself that makes others comfortable. Access to that place is not granted easily, because you have learned what it costs when the wrong person is allowed in. Most people experience this as you being distant, hard to know, perpetually one step removed, even in the midst of connection. They sense that there are rooms in you they have not been invited into. And they are right, because you are not arbitrarily keeping people out. You are protecting something that has been violated before. The inner circle of the INFJ is not about who you spend time with. It is about who gets to see the undefended version of you. Who gets to know what you actually think, not what you have decided it is safe to share. Who gets access to the perceptions you usually keep private because most people find them unsettling. The centre of you is strange. You know this. You have spent a lifetime learning how much strangeness others can tolerate before they begin to look at you differently. And so you ration it. You offer the acceptable parts. You translate your actual experience into language that will not disturb. And most people are content with this. They think they know you because they recognize the surface. They do not realize they are standing in the outer courtyard whilst the temple remains locked. But every so often someone appears who seems different, and without quite meaning to, you begin to test them. This is not a conscious process. You do not sit down and devise trials. But the guardian in you is always watchful, always assessing. Can this person hold complexity? Do they flinch when you say something true that is not pleasant? Do they need you to be smaller than you are? Do they require constant reassurance that you are not judging them simply because you see clearly? These are not cruel questions. They are necessary ones, because you have let the wrong people in before. You have shown someone the strange perceptive clarity that lives in you and watched them recoil. You have shared a perception that seemed obvious to you and labelled it as cynicism, overthinking, and negativity. You have been undefended by someone, and that vulnerability was used against you the moment the relationship shifted, and so you learned. The inner circle is not about who likes you. It is about who can stand in the presence of what you actually are without needing you to be otherwise. This is the guardian of thresholds pattern, at its most essential. In myth and fairy tale, the guardian is the figure who stands at the crossing point between the ordinary world and the sacred one. The ferryman who decides who may cross the river, the sentry at the gate who asks the question that reveals whether you belong, the witch in the forest who helps only those who prove themselves worthy. And the test is never what people expect. It is not about strength, wealth, or charm. It is about the capacity to meet what is true without flinching. The INFJ as guardian is not protecting a social circle. You are protecting the integrity of your inner world, and that world is not casual. It is not neutral. It is the place where you hold everything you have seen, felt and understood about the human condition. It is where your perceptions live in their unfiltered form. It is where you process the emotional realities that others walk past without noticing. And it is exhausting to maintain. Because, unlike most people, you do not have the luxury of thoughtless intimacy. You cannot simply let people in and hope for the best. Every person you allow close becomes someone whose emotional reality you will feel, whose pain you will carry, whose patterns you will perceive long before they acknowledge them. This is not metaphor. This is the lived structure of INFJ consciousness you absorb. And so the inner circle is not just about who you trust. It's about who you can afford to let that close, because closeness for you is not the same as closeness for others. When you let someone in, you are not just sharing your time or your thoughts. You are allowing them into the space where you are undefended, where your perceptiveness is not softened, where the observations you usually keep to yourself are spoken aloud. And this is a kind of nakedness that most people do not understand. They think intimacy is about sharing feelings. For the INFJ, intimacy is about sharing sight, and not everyone can bear what you see. Here is the shadow side of being the guardian. It is lonely. You are the one who decides, and you are the one who lives with the consequences of your decisions. You have people who care about you, yet you are still alone in the most important sense, because they do not know you as you long to be known. And the reason they do not know you is because you have not let them in. And the reason you have not let them in is because you could not risk it. This is the paradox the guardian lives inside. You long for the very intimacy you have fortified yourself against. You want to be seen, and you have learned that being seen is dangerous. And so you remain at the threshold, close enough to help others cross, never quite crossing yourself. The INFJ inner circle is small not because you are misanthropic. It is small because the cost of admission is the ability to hold you in your fullness without needing to reshape you, and that is vanishingly rare. Most people want a version of you that makes sense to them. They want the parts of you that are warm, insightful, and helpful. They are less interested in the parts of you that are strange or bleak or uncomfortably accurate in your perceptions. They want the healer. They do not know what to do with the seer, and you have learned to give them what they can handle, but it leaves you perpetually alone in the center of yourself. This is what people misunderstand when they ask why INFJs are so hard to know. They think you are withholding, and you are, but not out of cruelty, out of necessity, because the unguarded version of you has been misunderstood too many times, and so you stay at the gate, the guardian of thresholds, helping others towards the intimacy you yourself cannot quite reach. This is not a flaw in you. This is the structure of the archetype itself. The guardian does not cross. The guardian remains at the boundary because someone must hold the line between what is sacred and what is not, and you do this not because you enjoy it, but because you are wired to perceive what is true. You cannot unfeel what you feel. You cannot unsee what you see, and so you protect the place inside yourself where those perceptions are allowed to exist undefended. The inner circle of the INFJ is sacred because it is the only place you do not have to translate. It is the only place you are not performing. And access to that place is not about whether someone is likable or well-intentioned. It is about whether they can stand in the presence of your actual consciousness without needing you to dim it. This is why the circle is small, not because INFJs are selective in some shallow sense, but because the requirement is so specific, it is so rarely met. You need someone who can hold paradox, who does not need you to be only light, who will not be disturbed by the accuracy of your perceptions, who understands that seeing clearly is not the same as being cruel. And those people are rare, but they exist, and when you find them you will know, because you will feel the exhaustion lift. You will realize you have not been translating. You will notice that you said something true and uncomfortable, and they did not flinch. They met you there, and that is what it feels like to let someone through the gate. You are not broken for being this selective. You are awake. You are the guardian of thresholds, and you are doing what the archetype has always done, protecting what is sacred by determining who is ready to hold it. If this named something you have carried in silence, please tell me in the comments. Have you felt the loneliness of being the guardian? Do you recognize this pattern of perpetual testing, of keeping people close but not quite close enough? And if you want to continue exploring the territory of being an INFJ, subscribe. This is Power and Myth. You are not too much. You are exactly what the world needs, even if the world does not always know how to hold you. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.